So there I was, Commander Vektris of the Galactic Enforcement Fleet, doing what I thought would be the easiest job of my career. Accept a human surrender. Simple, right? Wrong. So incredibly, catastrophically wrong. Let me back up a bit. 3 cycles ago, the Intergalactic Council decided that humanity had finally crossed one too many lines. They broke trade sanctions with the Quarantine Zone, smuggled weapons to 6 different rebel factions, and, here is the real kicker, one of their merchants actually punched a council diplomat in what humans call the face. Punched, with a closed fist, like some kind of primitive animal. The council was furious. Sanctions were voted through faster than a photon in a vacuum. Blockades established. And then, because humans are apparently incapable of taking a hint, they kept doing whatever they wanted. Smuggling, trading, grinning at our warships like we were some sort of cosmic joke. So the council sent me. Vektris the Unmerciful, they called me. Vektris who crushed the rebellion of Sector 9. Vektris who made the warlords of Kefron beg for terms. And now, Vektris who would make humanity kneel. Except, well, we will get to that. My fleet jumped into the Sol system with 47 warships. 47! The humans had maybe 12 vessels that could even be generously called military grade. The rest were converted cargo haulers with missile pods welded to the hull. It was pathetic. Almost insulting, really. I expected them to surrender the moment we appeared. Instead, they attacked. Not all of them, mind you. Just one ship. A single human vessel called Defiant Starling came screaming out of Earth's orbit like it was personally offended by our existence. It was small, maybe 1/10 the size of my flagship, and it charged straight at our battle line while broadcasting what I can only describe as noise. Loud, rhythmic, obnoxious noise with someone screaming about not backing down. Music, my cultural liaison Temix explained, his scales flushing purple with second-hand embarrassment. Humans play it before combat. Something about morale. That is not music, I said, watching the tiny ship weave through our opening barrage. That is auditory assault. But here is the thing. The Defiant Starling did not die. It should have died. By all tactical calculations, it should have been vaporized in the first 30 seconds. Instead, it dodged. It rolled. It spun like a drunken dancer. And somehow, it got close enough to launch a full spread of missiles directly into the shield generator of the battlecruiser Wrath of Justice. My Wrath of Justice! The shields flickered, just for a moment. But it was enough to make me realize that maybe, just maybe, this would not be as simple as I thought. The Defiant Starling exploded 6 seconds later, obviously. But the pilot ejected, and as the escape pod tumbled past my viewing screen, I swear on the eternal void that I saw the human inside giving us a gesture. One finger. Extended. I did not need Temix to explain what that meant. Commander, my second officer Ralith said quietly, the rest of the human fleet is moving into position. I studied the tactical display. 12 ships against 47. The odds were so lopsided it was almost funny. Almost. Because the humans were not forming a defensive line around Earth. They were spreading out, flanking, moving with a coordination that spoke of practice, of planning, of intention. They cannot win, I said, more to convince myself than anyone else. No, Commander, Ralith agreed, but they can make us bleed. And bleed we did. Not badly, not catastrophically. But those 12 human ships, those jury-rigged, underpowered, absolutely suicidal ships, they fought like they had a chance. They fought like they believed they could win, which, from a purely rational standpoint, was insane. We destroyed them, of course, one by one. But it took hours. Hours! Each ship refused to die quietly. They dodged, they wove, they used every dirty trick in the tactical manual, and several that definitely were not. One captain actually rammed his crippled vessel into our supply frigate rather than let us capture it. The explosion took out 2 of our escort ships. When the last human vessel, a battered destroyer called Stubborn Fool, finally went silent, I expected relief. Instead, I felt uneasy, because the humans on Earth had not surrendered. They had not even tried to negotiate. They had just fought, and died, and waited. "Scan the planet," I ordered. "Full spectrum. I want to know what they are planning." The results were disturbing. Earth was not defenseless. Far from it. Orbital platforms, ground-based particle cannons, missile silos that our sensors could barely penetrate, and something else. Something in the mountains of several continents that registered as massive energy signatures, but no clear weapon systems. "Could be decoys," Ralith suggested. "Could be," I agreed. But I did not believe it. I opened a communication channel to Earth. Standard procedure, really. Offer terms. Make them understand that resistance was futile. Save us all some time and ammunition. The face that appeared on my screen was human, obviously. Female, I think, though telling with humans is always a guessing game. She had dark skin, darker hair pulled back severely, and eyes that looked like they had seen the heat death of several stars and found it boring. "I am Commander Vektris of the Galactic Enforcement Fleet," I began, using my most authoritative voice. "You are in violation of Council sanctions and regulations. Your fleet is destroyed. Your planet is surrounded. Surrender, and you will be treated according to galactic law." The human smiled. Not a happy smile, a smile like a blade being unsheathed. "Commander Vektris," she said, her voice calm and almost cheerful. "I am High Marshal Kendra Okonkwo of Earth Defense Command, and I am afraid I have to decline your generous offer." Blinked. All 3 of my eyes. "You decline?" "Yes. You see, we have been expecting you. Planning for you, actually. And we have decided that if the Council wants Earth, they will have to take it. Piece by piece, inch by inch, body by body." "That is absurd," I said. "You cannot win. The mathematics alone." "Oh, we know," Kendra interrupted, still smiling that terrible smile. "We absolutely know we cannot win a conventional engagement. That is why we are not going to fight one." And then she closed the channel. I stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Temix cleared his throat nervously. "Commander, perhaps we should proceed with the bombardment? Standard siege protocol?" "No," I said slowly. "That is what she expects. What she wants. Then what do we do?" Good question. Excellent question, really. Because the longer I looked at Earth, the more I realized that High Marshal Kendra Okonkwo was playing a game I did not understand the rules to. I decided on a demonstration, a show of force. Target one of those energy signatures in the mountains, hit it hard enough to vaporize whatever it was, and show the humans that their tricks and preparations meant nothing against superior firepower. We locked on to the largest signature, some mountain range called the Rockies. The firing solution was perfect. 3 battlecruisers aimed at a single point, enough energy to crack a small moon. "Fire!" I ordered. The beams lanced down through Earth's atmosphere, brilliant and terrible and absolutely devastating, for exactly 3 seconds. Then something happened. The energy just stopped, dispersed, scattered like light through a prism. "What?" I actually said it out loud. "What?" "Shield technology, Commander," my tactical officer reported, his voice climbing several octaves. But not any design in our database. It is not deflecting the energy. It is absorbing it. Absorbing it? I leaned forward. For what purpose? I got my answer 6 seconds later when the mountain lit up like a newborn star and returned fire. The beam that came up from Earth was not large, not particularly impressive by visual standards, but when it hit the battlecruiser Pride of Kelmar, it did not just damage the shields. It cut through them, through the armor, through the entire ship, actually, from bow to stern, like a hot blade through ceremonial wax. The Pride of Kelmar broke in half and started falling toward Earth. 1,500 crew. Gone. Just like that. Evasive maneuvers! I was definitely shouting now. Get us out of range of that thing! But the weapon did not fire again. It just powered down, went silent, like it was waiting. They are toying with us, Raylith said quietly. He was right. They absolutely were. One shot, one kill, one message. We can hurt you. I pulled the fleet back to a higher orbit and tried to think. Really think. The humans had anti-orbital weapons, plural probably, unknown capabilities, unknown numbers, and a High Marshal who smiled like death itself while telling me no. This was not going according to plan. Open a channel, I said finally, to High Marshal Okonkwo. Personal. Private. It took 5 minutes for her to respond. When her face appeared again, she was holding a cup of something steaming, drinking it, while I waited. Yes, Commander? She said pleasantly. That weapon, I said, fighting to keep my voice level. You have how many? Oh, dozens, she said casually. Maybe hundreds? I lose count. We built them into mountains, under cities, in the ocean floor. Really anywhere we could dig deep enough and pour enough concrete. I felt my blood go cold. Well, colder. I am naturally cold-blooded. This is insane. You are risking your entire species over sanctions. No, Commander. Kendra set down her cup. You risked your entire fleet over pride. The Council decided we needed to be punished. You decided we would be easy. And now you are stuck in orbit around a planet that really does not want you here, trying to figure out how to win a war you already lost. I have not lost anything. You lost the Pride of Kelmar, she pointed out. 1,500 dead. And if you try to bombard us again, you will lose more, many more. So here is my counteroffer, Commander Vektris. Leave. Go home. Tell the Council that humanity will not be sanctioned, will not be bullied, and will not surrender. We will trade with whoever we want. We will go wherever we want. And if anyone has a problem with that, they can come here and discuss it. Personally. The Council will send more ships. Then we will sink more ships. Commander, do you know what the definition of insanity is? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. You just learned we can kill your battlecruisers. The next fleet will learn the same lesson. And the one after that. How many crews have to die before the Council realizes that maybe, just maybe, humans are not worth the cost? I did not have an answer. Not a good one, anyway. So I did what any commander would do when faced with an impossible situation. I ended the call and convened a staff meeting. For 3 hours, my officers debated. Some wanted to press the attack, use our numbers to overwhelm the defenses. Others suggested a blockade, starve Earth into submission. A few quietly suggested that maybe the human was right. Maybe we should just leave. I listened to all of them, weighed the options, calculated the odds, and came to a conclusion that would have horrified my superiors but made perfect tactical sense. Prepare a shuttle, I said. I am going to Earth, personally. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Rylith spoke. Commander, that is unprecedented. So is this entire situation. If High Marshal Okonkwo wants to negotiate, then we will negotiate, face to face. Perhaps we can find a solution that does not involve any more dead crews or burning ships. And if it is a trap, I touch the holster at my side. Then I die, doing my duty. Prepare the shuttle. 20 hours later, I was standing in what humans called Geneva, in a building they claimed was neutral ground. High Marshal Kendra Okonkwo stood across a simple table from me, flanked by 2 guards who looked like they could bend steel with their bare hands. Commander Vektris, she said, nodding. Thank you for coming. I am here to discuss terms, I said stiffly. Honorable terms, for both sides. Of course. But first, a question. Why did you come? Really? I considered lying, considered deflecting. Instead, I told the truth. Because I do not want to waste lives, yours or mine. This conflict is pointless. The Council wants compliance. You want freedom. Somewhere between those positions is a compromise. Kendra smiled again, but this time it reached her eyes. I was hoping you would say that. She reached into her jacket, and both my hands went to my weapon. But she just pulled out a data pad and slid it across the table. Revised trade agreement, she said. Independent human vessels agree to register cargo manifests with Council overseers. In exchange, sanctions are lifted, and humanity is recognized as a sovereign entity with full trading rights. I picked up the pad and read. It was reasonable. More than reasonable, actually. It gave the Council oversight without actual control. Face-saving and practical. The Council will never agree to this. Then we stay at war, Kendra shrugged. Your choice, Commander. Sign the agreement, take it to the Council, and recommend acceptance. Or go back to your ships, and let us see how many more crews want to die for bureaucratic pride. I stared at the document. At her. At the future that hung in the balance of this moment. And then I did something I had never done in 30 years of military service. I reached for the stylus. The door exploded inward. The blast threw me backward into a wall. My ears rang, smoke filled the room, and through the chaos, I saw figures pouring through the shattered doorway. Not humans. Not my crew. These were Krath warriors, their forearms carrying plasma rifles, their mandibles clicking with what I assumed was either excitement or bloodlust. Fascinating, I heard Kendra say from somewhere to my left. She sounded annoyed, not afraid. The Council sent assassins. Not the Council, I managed to gasp, pulling myself upright. My side hurt, probably cracked ribs. Hardliners, extremists who think any negotiation with humans is treason. How very inconvenient for both of us. The Krath opened fire. Plasma bolts screamed through the air, superheating everything they touched. Kendra's guards returned fire with projectile weapons, loud and crude, and surprisingly effective. One Krath went down, then another, but there were at least a dozen more coming through the door. This way, Kendra grabbed my arm and hauled me toward a side exit. For a human, she was remarkably strong. We crashed through a door into a corridor, alarms blaring all around us. Your security? I asked, running alongside her. Responding. But this building is supposed to be a demilitarized zone. We have guards, not an army. How many did they bring? If they are serious, enough. I tapped my communicator. Vektris to fleet. Emergency extraction required at my coordinates. We are under attack by Krath insurgents. Static. Just static. They are jamming us, Kendra said grimly. Professional job. These are not just extremists, Commander. Someone organized this. Someone with resources. We rounded a corner and nearly ran into 3 more Krath. These ones were not firing randomly. They were methodical, advancing in formation, covering each other. Military trained. "Back!" Kendra shoved me into a side room and slammed the door. It was some kind of storage area, filled with cleaning supplies and maintenance equipment. "This is bad." I noticed. She was checking her weapon, a sleek pistol that looked too small to be effective. "If they kill you, the Council has an excuse to glass the entire planet. Murdered negotiator. Act of war. Everything we worked for, gone. If they kill me, I will be too dead to care about the politics." She actually laughed. A short, sharp bark of sound. "I like you, Commander. Most military types would be whimpering about now." Most military types have not faced down a Kefron warlord with nothing but a ceremonial blade and audacity. I checked my own weapon. Full charge, 12 shots, against dozens of Krath warriors. "We need a plan. Working on it." Kendra was studying a wall panel. "This building has maintenance tunnels. If we can reach them, we might be able to get to the roof. My people can extract us from there." Might? Better than waiting here to die. Fair point. I helped her pry open the access panel, and we squeezed into a narrow tunnel that smelled of recycled air and old metal. Behind us, I heard the door explode. The Krath were not subtle, I would give them that. We crawled through the darkness, following Kendra's intuition and my tactical display, which was barely functioning through the jamming. Every few meters, we heard sounds above us. Footsteps, weapons fire, shouting in multiple languages. "Question," Kendra whispered. "Why do the hardliners care so much? It is just a trade agreement." "Because humans terrify them," I said honestly. "You appeared on the galactic stage 50 years ago. 50! Most species take 500 years to achieve faster-than-light travel. You did it in 1, then you started trading, exploring, building, growing. The Council sees a threat. Not now, but in a century or two when humans outnumber half the member species. So they want to cage us before we become competition. Essentially, yes." "Idiots." She stopped at a junction. "Left or right?" I consulted my display. "Right leads to the central shaft. We can climb to the roof from there." We went right. The tunnel opened into a vertical shaft with a ladder running up the center. I looked up and saw nothing but darkness. Looked down and saw the same. "How far?" Kendra asked. 15 floors. Maybe 20. "Fantastic. I do cardio 4 times a week and I still hate this already." We started climbing. My ribs screamed with every rung. Kendra climbed below me, watching for pursuit. For 3 floors, nothing happened. Then I heard the access panel below us tear open and saw lights flooding the shaft. "Climb faster!" Kendra yelled unnecessarily. I was already climbing as fast as my injured body allowed. Plasma bolts started hitting the ladder around us. The Krath were firing up the shaft, hoping to get lucky. One bolt missed my head by centimeters. I felt the heat of it, smelled the ozone. "How many shots you got?" Kendra called up. 12! "Make them count!" I twisted on the ladder, aimed down, and fired 3 times. The shots were wild, desperate, but one hit something because I heard a shriek and saw a Krath tumble into the darkness below. We kept climbing. 10 floors, 12. My arms were shaking. My ribs felt like they were grinding against each other. Below us, more Krath were climbing, faster than we were, closing the distance. "Almost there!" Kendra reached the top access panel and kicked it open. Sunlight flooded down. Beautiful, painful sunlight. She pulled herself up and reached back for me. I grabbed her hand, and she hauled me onto the roof just as a plasma bolt hit the ladder where I had been standing a second before. The metal glowed white-hot and sagged. "Move! Move! Move!" Kendra dragged me away from the opening as Krath heads appeared below. The roof was flat, empty except for some communication equipment and ventilation units. No cover, no escape route. And below us, I could hear more Krath flooding into the building. "Your extraction?" I gasped. Kendra was on her communicator, speaking rapidly. "Airborne in 2 minutes. We need to hold for 2 minutes. 2 minutes might as well have been 2 years." The first Krath pulled himself onto the roof, then 3 more, then a dozen. They spread out, professional and efficient, cutting off any escape route. "Commander Vektris," one of them said in heavily accented standard, "you are guilty of treason against the Council. Surrender, and your death will be quick." "Tempting offer," I called back, "but I think I will pass. And the human dies too. Unfortunate, but necessary." "Over my dead body," Kendra said cheerfully. "That is the plan." They opened fire. We dove behind a ventilation unit that provided approximately 0 real cover. Plasma bolts tore chunks out of the metal. The heat was intense. I fired back, more to keep them cautious than from any real hope of hitting anything. "Got a miracle in your pocket?" I asked Kendra. "Fresh out. You?" "I used mine getting this far." She laughed again. Same sharp, defiant sound. "You know what, Commander? If I have to die today, at least it is with someone interesting." "The feeling is mutual, High Marshal." We fired. Together, a futile gesture against overwhelming numbers. My weapon counter clicked down. 8 shots. 6. 4. The Krath were advancing now, certain of victory. Then I heard it. A sound like thunder mixed with screaming metal. I looked up and saw something descending through the clouds. Not a human aircraft, not one of my shuttles. A Krath dropship. "Oh, you have got to be kidding me," Kendra said. But the dropship did not land near the other Krath. It hovered over us, and its side doors opened. Figures jumped out, falling 20 meters and landing on the roof with bone-jarring impacts that would have killed any human or me. More Krath, except these ones were firing at the first group. The roof erupted into chaos. Krath fighting Krath, plasma bolts crossing in every direction, shouting in their clicking language. I stared, utterly confused. "Commander Vektris." One of the new arrivals approached, weapons lowered. "I am Captain Thex of the Council Security Force. We are here to extract you." "You are Krath," I said brilliantly. "Yes. So are the traitors trying to kill you. Your point?" Thex gestured toward the dropship. "Quickly, before reinforcements arrive." Kendra and I ran for the dropship while Thex and his team provided covering fire. We dove through the open door, and the craft lifted immediately, climbing fast and hard. Below us, the roof was still a battlefield. "What just happened?" Kendra asked, breathing hard. "Apparently the hardliners are not as unified as they thought," Thex said, settling into a seat. "When word reached the Council that someone was trying to assassinate you both during peace negotiations, several member species were displeased. We were the closest response team." "You saved us," I said slowly. "We saved the treaty," Thex corrected. "And ourselves. A war with humanity would be costly. Better to have you as trading partners than corpses." He looked at Kendra. "No offense. None taken. I prefer being alive." The dropship climbed higher, breaking through the atmosphere. I could see my fleet in orbit, and beyond them, 3 Council peacekeeping vessels that had not been there before. The Council authorized a full investigation. Thex continued, "The attack was planned by a coalition of hardline factions. They believed that if they killed you both, blamed humanity, they could force a war. They were wrong. What happens now? I asked. Vex pulled out a data pad, the same one I had been about to sign before the attack. Now, Commander Vektris, you complete what you started. Sign the treaty, return to the Council, and explain that humanity has earned its place at the table, whether certain factions like it or not. I took the pad, the stylus, looked at Kendra, who was watching me with those star-burned eyes. No more tricks? I asked her. No more tricks, she confirmed. Just trade, and maybe friendship. Eventually. If you prove you are not all as annoying as your hardliners. I could say the same about humans. You probably should. I signed. One stroke of a stylus. One decision that changed everything. The treaty was official. Binding. Done. Vex took the pad and nodded. The Council will not be pleased, but they will accept it. Too many witnesses. Too much evidence of the conspiracy. Rejecting this now would admit they supported the assassination attempt. Politics, I muttered. Always politics, Kendra agreed. She extended her hand. The human gesture of agreement. Commander Vektris, it has been absolutely terrifying doing business with you. I took her hand and shook it, matching her grip. High Marshal Okonkwo, the feeling is entirely mutual. I hope our next meeting involves less explosions and attempted murder. We can try. No promises, though. We are human. Drama follows us. The dropship docked with my flagship. As I prepared to disembark, Kendra caught my arm. Commander, thank you for coming to Earth, for trying. Most would not have bothered. Most did not have to watch their ships die one by one against 12 suicidal humans who refused to lose, I said honestly. You earned my respect, Marshal. Now try not to abuse it. We will do our best, she grinned. But again, no promises. 3 weeks later, I stood before the Galactic Council and presented the treaty. There were protests, accusations, demands for my resignation. But the facts were clear. The assassination attempt had been real, coordinated, illegal, and humanity had defended both their world and a council commander against mutual enemies. The vote was closer than I would have liked, but it passed. Humanity was recognized, the sanctions lifted, trade opened, and I became known as Vektris the Peacemaker, which was infinitely better than Vektris the Dead. 6 months after that, I received a package from Earth. Inside was a bottle of something called whiskey, with a note attached. Commander, heard you got promoted. Figured you could use a drink. This is what humans use to celebrate surviving impossible situations. Welcome to the club. Kendra. I opened the bottle that evening and poured a measure. It burned going down, harsh and unrefined and somehow perfect. I raised my glass toward the window, toward the distant star that was Sul. To humanity, I said to my empty quarters, may the galaxy survive you. Somewhere, across the void of space, I like to imagine Kendra was raising her own glass and laughing. Because that is what humans do. They laugh at death, charge impossible odds, and somehow, impossibly, they win. Not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through sheer bloody-minded refusal to quit. Ever. The Council had tried to cage them. Instead, humanity kicked down the door and invited themselves to dinner. And now we all had to live with the consequences. I took another drink. It was going to be an interesting century.